Hello and welcome to this tutorial. My name is Chris and we'll be working today on this tutorial part 4. It's designing a Midi pedal board. Technically it's under Blender, but we're going to be moving into one of the more final legs of MIDI pedal board design blueprint. This is actually working to go ahead and print the blueprints out to scale, and I'm actually using Adobe Photoshop to do this. I do use Adobe Photoshop because in this case I have kind of explicit photo editing tools that allows me to be able to prepare the prints, make sure that they're to spec in terms of the design, and so that's mainly why I do use it. I'm sure you might be able to find through one of the open source or free photo editing software. They probably have a similar deal. I'm familiar with Photoshop mostly, so that's why I tend to like to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Photoshop here and go ahead and pull up the blueprints that I have here. I actually went and stored them on a cloud account that I had transferred from my Linux computer. I just uploaded it to my Google Drive, and then from there transferred it, downloaded it from Google Drive to my computer, so I have it stored in my downloads folder. So in this case I'm going to grab for instance one of the templates. It's actually titled Right Side, and I'll go ahead and pull that, and we could see the print actually shown here. The one thing is that, and I explained this in a previous tutorial when you're that was part 3, I believe, in this tutorial series, that you'd want to make sure to have the pixels arranged to spec. So for high resolution blueprints, you're probably looking at something like 300 dots per inch or 300 pixels per inch. I did indicate that the size of this particular print was going to be a total of 5 inches in width across the entire length. So what we'll want to go ahead and do is we'll want to go ahead and get this prepared, so to make sure that it's fitting according to the specs that we're looking for. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we have our pixel grid shown. I believe we do need the rulers, and then we'll want to go ahead and make sure that this is shown in, yep, that's inches. Let's see here. This looks like it's a bit big actually for the inch scaling. So what this actually does relate to another problem is if you've got your scaling much too big, we'll get into a situation where we'll go ahead and rescale the width of it. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and use a magic wand tool and just select. That's another reason why I love Photoshop, is that their selection tools. They do have one that the quick selection tool that I really like, that you can't really find in GIMP to my knowledge, and so that's why I like to use Photoshop again. So I'll go ahead and copy that selection area, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste into a new area. We'll want to make sure that the resolution is appropriately set here at something like 300 pixels per inch. I'm not going to mess with the width and the height at the moment. Let's go ahead and do that, and we may need to rescale the canvas size or change the canvas size at some point, but we'll deal with that as we need. Now I'm going to go ahead and just paste it. Looks like we've taken the entire width at 300 dpi, and hopefully we give ourselves a little bit more space. So I'm going to close this out and choose it, give us a little bit of padding. 979, so we'll go 3079, and then I'll add an extra 20 there, so 55, and then we want this at 300 dpi. That's a little better. We have just a little bit of width on the right and the left, and but it looks like in any event, this is a little bit too big. Now, I did mention in like part 3 of my tutorial series, so you want to record at least on one axis, you know, have the dimension, you know, of the part that you're wanting to, you'll need at least for the given projection axis of that part, you'll want to have some sort of size scaling or size dimension size in mind when you go to, like, for instance, rescale this all together. So what we'll do is, and we have the actual width, which that's what's nice about the magic wand selection tools, is that the width is contained from the width starting at this edge here all the way to this edge. Now I stated it was something like 5 inches. So what we can do is go up into this right corner, and I believe it's Shift and you left mouse button click and hold, and you can drag this and rescale it. It's important that you're holding the Shift button down as you're doing this, dragging it to the left, and you're just dragging this until you get to approximately, like in this case I stated it was 5 inches. So you can kind of drag it down if you're a little off, and then once you found the scale, once you found the scale, you just release on the left mouse button. So we'll do that, and then I'll click the check mark up here, and that saves it at that particular size. Now we got a lot of canvas here that is shown that is not necessary for our given picture, so we can rescale this to a new canvas size, which would probably be better for us. So I'll go something like 5.25. Oops. And for some reason we don't have, well, the height, we can go ahead and bring that down to something like 3 inches. And then we'll just go ahead and drag this up in the corner like so, so that we have it as we need it. Now, we have when we feel that we have what we need in terms of like the size, what we'll need to go ahead and do is, we'll need to go ahead and process the image. Now, the one thing with this image is that I've included these, and I intended to have something like box finger joints in my design. I'm going to go ahead and omit that because of the just kind of the complexity. It's kind of an added complexity. So I'll actually show you another technique if you're wanting to kind of slightly modify your prints on the fly in terms of just a slight design change. So I'm going to go ahead and omit some of those box corners. So what I can do is I can actually use it's a threshold, and I actually wanted to make this kind of black and white, just kind of pure monochrome color, black and white all together. So you can, with the threshold, and that's again under image, and then you go to adjustment, and then you go to threshold. You can actually threshold the color variations so that when they fit certain types of grayscale light values, you threshold that at a particular increment or threshold level. And so we can actually omit these little corners here when it goes to actually print out, so that all we're seeing is the black that is being shown there. So I'll go ahead and save that, hit OK, and there we have it with that particular print. So it looks like, if everything looks like it's ready to go, and it looks like with the ruler we have approximately, it's right in the range that we need it. This is 5 inches across total length, and on that one dimension, and the scaling is kept in proportional as we resize this, you know, to the dimension length on that one given axis. So what I'll go ahead and do is prepare this for printing. And so the main thing when you're printing is, like, you want to pay attention to your parts. Like in some cases, you may need to go to a print specialty shop if you've got like oversized blueprint prints that, you know, are you're not going to be able to print it on your home inkjet. I'm sure there are, like, wherever you live, you may have access to some place where they can do larger scale print, true to scale prints. But in any event, I was able to fit my print design by going to legal paper, where I only had 12.5 inches, at least in a landscape format. So you want to pay attention to whether or not your design fits in the portrait or landscape format. With the landscape, it's going to print it side to side. And the next thing is that you want to make sure that you're not rescaling when you're printing, so that you've got the true print area that is shown there. So you don't want to rescale, like for instance, scale to fit media. You want to make sure that's not selected. The next thing is like with my printer, and I'm using like an Epson Artisan 810. You want to check the settings and make sure that that you've got the right document type that's selected. And then finally, you'll want to make sure that like with your printer's driver, that it's not additionally reducing or enlarging the document. So you want to make sure that that's unchecked, so that it remains true to scale as it's shown in Photoshop when you're doing the print. If everything looks good on that end, from your end, then you'll just click print, and you should have a printed document that's as shown there. So that basically completes, at least with this tutorial, what I had in mind, or in terms of demonstrating how to print. It's actually pretty easy once you just follow the steps there. It should print out, and that's about it. So thank you for listening in on this tutorial, and you have a great day there.